city manager's office. And we'll also be assisting the committee throughout our meetings for the next few years. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Mark to take over.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction, Assistant City Manager Klotz. Good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here to work with you on this very important Measure I. And so with that, we'll begin the meeting. The first order of business is to read the consent calendar item. Oh, roll call. Oh, Amy. We will have Amy Escobar conduct the first roll call.
And I do apologize if I mispronounce your name. Feel free to correct me so I can get it right, okay? Gaurav Dutta,
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Brian Tickler,
Here.
Sandy Rodriguez,
Here.
Ruby Pomerleau, Idem Ibrahimov,
Here.
okay? Anurag Dixit,
I'm here.
and Matthew Klopp. You do have quorum.
Thank you, Amy. The first item that we'll read is the minutes from the previous meeting that was conducted back in June 6, 2025. Approval of the June 4th, oh, excuse me, it was June 4th, June 4th, 2025 Bond Compliance Oversight Committee meeting minutes. Like the motion to approve? No? Let me back up a little bit. Apologies. I need to ask the committee if they have any questions, changes, or discussions on the minutes. Turn it on.
Oh.
Yep.
Press the green and speak into the
I
mic.
have a couple of questions about bylaws, and whenever you see it appropriate, I will ask.
Okay, so I think the technical questions on the bylaws we'll take during the committee reports section, which will be after this. This is just an action on the minutes.
It's like, yeah, it's about what has been done and about amendments to bylaws and about our role in this process. I would like to know.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Can you state that question again, maybe more specifically?
Specifically, it's about better understanding bylaws and about our role in this process. And I also, actually, it's two questions. First, about what our role with the amendments, because it's kind of strangely put there. And the second question is, I'm actually wondering, it says we cannot, I would like to see how the bidding will go for the jobs provided with this money, and what companies bid for this job, and do we have enough of a variety of choices?
Okay. So the bylaws themselves have been approved by the city council for purposes of you implementing your duties. If you desire an amendment to the bylaws because you think they're you don't like how they operate, under section 10 of the bylaws, you could propose that to the city council and the city council would need to approve that amendment. And so there is provision for amendment of the bylaws if you think that they warrant an amendment and
It says that we, prior to city council consideration, any such proposed amendment shall first be submitted to the committee. And on the other hand, it says that we have no role about approval of amendments to the expenditure plan. Oh, I'm sorry, to the. That's not very important question. Let me see, because I did it a little bit early. I will see about that. But what I'm saying is that I know that I recently read on the site that two companies were selected, Adams Pool.
I'm sorry, so could you speak more directly into the mic? I'm not hearing you as well as I want to in order to be able to answer your question.
What I'm interested in, the bylaw says that we don't have any role in selection of architects, engineers, soils engineers, and so on. But at least will we have information of how those architects were chosen, what kind of fair bidding was done? And because, for example, this international swimming pool, I know that two companies were chosen, Adams Pool Solutions and MS Construction. And can you give us more information how they were chosen? Who did actually the inspection of the international swimming pool? What company?
So I would tender to you that that is outside the authority and jurisdiction of this group.
That's exactly what I
Yes.
wanted to know. Can
Yeah,
we-
and not that you can't ask for information and that we can't provide you
Right,
information, but that's not something that in effect you will be involved with or acting on. And so within certain limits, and I'll look to professional, business staff, to apprise you of that, we can certainly provide this group information, but you should understand that that is not within this group's jurisdiction in terms of what the standards are for you to provide direct input or take any action on that. So we definitely want you to understand, the processes, how our projects, implemented and bid. And your question, if you want to understand how that process works is fine, but probably specific questions about, why was this person chosen or why was that person chosen? I would suggest you that's probably outside your jurisdiction. If you have a general question about the bid, processes and how procurement works, I think that would be very appropriate and staff could certainly
Right,
come back
yeah.
and either provide information to you about that tonight in the course of their presentation on other items, or if it's not appropriate or they don't have what you want tonight, at a later meeting.
That's why I say bylaws, because you're absolutely right. Bylaws state that we don't have influence in that matter.
That's right.
On
Yeah.
the other hand, how can we provide to ensure accountability and transparency if we don't know those? So, well, all I'm asking is maybe some information how that process was going. And because, it's been 1.5 years since pool was closed, and would be interesting what has been done during this time about choosing the right construction company and what was, are
Yeah,
we
so-
ready?
So again, that's a very specific question about a very specific project.
Yeah, it is.
And the kind of accountability that this group is responsible for is making sure that Measure I funds are spent on projects in accordance with the expenditure plan. Your general understanding and appreciation for the procurement processes, I think, is a meaningful part of that, but it's not anything you'll be acting on or providing input on in accordance with the
Absolutely.
measures that were approved by the voters, you
I
know,
understand
and the
that.
bylaws themselves. And so I might suggest, again, since there's a pretty significant, agenda that we want to get through, that maybe some of those questions can be answered, at the end of the meeting, if staff's here available to answer them. I might ask, at least
Mhm.
for general purposes, the Public Works Director, Craig
Yeah,
Mogbeck.
Just a very, very simple, like who did the inspection and who got the contract and how, like,
Okay, very good. I think the Public Works Director can answer that specific question for you.
all right.
Yeah, thanks. Craig Mobeck, Director of Public Works. So all of our procurement at the city of Santa Clara for design consultants follows the city purchasing process. And there's certain guidelines in terms of how we go about scoping projects and issue RFPs. Consultants go through a formal process to submit on those based on dollar amounts. There's proposals that come in, those are evaluated based on the professional services, the team being provided, the cost, a variety of factors. And then ultimately, those go up over a certain threshold, come before city council for approval. When it comes to construction contracts for public works purposes, those are bid out through state requirements, and we follow the low bid procedure, in which case we put together a set of construction documents, typically via a designer. Those are bid out openly to the public, so anybody meeting the requirements set forth in the documents can bid on those, and those are typically awarded based on low bid.
Just, is it the same company did the inspection, which will be fixing the pool or not?
So I am not involved in the inspection of the pool project, but for city capital projects, public works projects that are bid out, we have a field services team that provides inspection services on those projects. And those are typically made up of city staff, or in cases where we have significant workload, we go through a formal process to hire outside services. And then based on that, we can bring them in to assist with public works inspections.
So those professionals, they're not the same who will be building the pool, right?
No, inspection services are typically independent.
Oh, that's
Correct.
good, because I heard that it was the same company, but it would be nice to see
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah, and so not only do public works inspect the projects, but depending on the projects, there are certain requirements for building inspectors. And so the city has a building division, in which case building inspectors would come out and inspect certain components of the project to make sure they not only comply with the design requirements, but also the codes, the building codes.
All right, so you have public documents about it where I can read it, right?
It's all based on city. There's different city codes, city charters that dictate how things are done. There's purchasing requirements, and then there's state guidelines and requirements that the city also follows.
It's
So there's
guidelines,
a
but
mix.
I'm interested what already happened. How did it go already? What has been done to this moment?
We have some council agendas where I think the pool has gone before the council. And so perhaps after this meeting, I can send you that information.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you very much.
there'll be future council items related to that project as well.
And I think I may know what you're referring to. There was an action taken by the city council to actually expand the scope of work of a contractor that had been working on the pool without going out to bid, because there was an urgency, in order to do that. And so that might be what someone told you, and that would be accurate. And that's one of the staff reports that Assistant City Manager Klotz can provide to you, because there was a determination to expand the scope of work of a contractor that had been on site and had already done some work, because of the, you know, the advantages of doing that as opposed to completely going out, you know, to bid again with a whole new scope of work. So there are sometimes findings and exceptions made to standard policies, but all of that comes before council and determinations need to be made about whether or not that's appropriate or not in those circumstances. And one of the reports we'll send to you will
Sure.
be that one. Do you remember the one, the action I'm talking about? Yeah. Yeah, okay, very good, very good.
Okay, if we're
Thank you.
ready to proceed forward, I just want to back up one step and acknowledge that Ruby Pomeroy is in attendance and here for the meeting. I want to ask, is there, Amy, if there's anyone online regarding the consent calendar item?
I have no hands raised for that item online.
Thank you. I'll ask staff if any members of the public wish to speak. See no one coming forward. I'd like to invite a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar from our committee members. Someone willing to make the motion to approve the minutes of the June 6th meeting?
So in effect, just to explain for those who are new to this, what you're basically, we're asking you to do is, the minutes were included in your packet, right? If you think the minutes are an accurate reflection, you know, of the conduct of your meeting at the previous meeting, then it would be appropriate for you to take action to move second, you know, and vote in favor of those minutes. If you think there's something that's inaccurate or you want to propose a change before you would approve the minutes, then now would be the time to indicate that and to suggest such a modification.
I move to approve. It's on. Can you get it closer?
I move to approve the minutes of the June 6th meeting.
So we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I approve as well.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by committee member Tickler and seconded by committee member Duda. Thank you. Like to ask staff to take the roll to vote on this.
Okay, Duta? You need to vote yes or no on the motion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Tickler,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Pomerlo,
Yes.
Imbragimov,
Yes.
and Dixit.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. The next item of business, I believe, will be moving into the general business items. Excuse me. Public presentations or comments. We have any public presentations or comments?
And to be clear for the committee members and the public who may not be familiar with this process, this is a time to make comments on items that are not on the agenda, that are within the jurisdiction of the committee. You will be given an opportunity to speak each time there is an actual agenda item presented. And so if you have comments on an item on the agenda, you would wait until that item is called and you'd be given an opportunity to speak to that. But if you have a general comment for the committee, this is the part of the meeting that's reserved for you to make that general comment to the committee.
Thank you for that. I don't see anyone in the public. Amy, can you see if there's anyone online?
There is no one in the waiting room online to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next item of business would be the general business. We'll begin with item number 2 on the general business item. Actually, number 1, it is general 2. Selection and appointment of Board Compliance Oversight Committee Chair and Vice Chair. Ask if staff, if we have a presentation on this. We don't.
It looks like I'm the kind of the designated explainer for a first meeting on these things. Again, some of you are experienced with boards and committees. Others of you are not. You're like, what, chair and vice chair, what the heck are they talking about? And again, I don't mean to talk down to anyone who's, familiar with this process, but for purposes of this committee, the chair would be responsible really for running kind of the meeting in the way that you seeing us kind of do right now. You call the meeting to order, you moved, through the process from item to item, you manage, the both input from the public and comments and questions, that the different committee, members might have. Once that chair is selected, one of us on staff will probably want to set up a separate meeting with you to go over kind of the meeting management protocols so that you can familiarize yourself both with standard, rules and procedures, and maybe a little bit more specifically with this particular committee's bylaws, so that you familiarize yourself with that. In effect, you'll be the one charged in kind of taking command of the meeting agenda, and working with your peers to make sure everyone has an opportunity to, to provide input from the public, and then, orchestrate movements towards votes, when in fact a vote, is necessary. The vice chair has no duties except in the absence of the chair. And in the absence of the chair, because of course that might happen with the chair not being able to make it or otherwise being unavailable, the vice chair will then step into the shoes, of the chair in order to assist with the meeting. So those are the responsibilities that we're now in effect asking you to contemplate, taking, and I'll turn it back over to Mark. I think you've got a potential process for how they might go about going through this.
Yes.
And just to maybe help incentivize you a little bit, we also help by preparing a chairperson script. So for every meeting, you'll have a script that kind of helps outline, the steps and the actions and the requests that you might want to lead the committee in the meeting. So, I know that sometimes that seems a little cumbersome to take on a meeting, but we will prepare a script to help facilitate, and we can review that script ahead of each meeting with you as well.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. So I'll explain kind of the process of how we'll first elect the chair and then the vice chair. Members may self-nominate or nominate others. Nominees must accept to be considered. If more than one nominee will take brief remarks up to a minute each and vote. Majority of the vote cast wins. If no majority, we'll conduct a runoff between the top two. Any questions on that? No? Okay.
I might add, just to clarify a little
Sure.
bit. So if there's only one person nominated, right, that's easy. But if there's two people, that are interested, we will in effect, we are recommending that you would vote on both of those people. You could even vote if you were interested in voting for both of them. You don't have to choose one or the other. You could cast your vote for both, right? Because you think either of them, might be good. If say there's two, and there's a vote for each one, and it's a tie, then we have to do a runoff. But if one person comes out with the most votes, then that person would be the one, that would be, selected. And then we'd go through the same process for the vice chair. So I know that was a good description from Mark, but I wanted to add a little bit more detail so you understood the sequence of how that could play out. So now I think would be the time for all of you, now that you've heard what a great opportunity it is to be the chair, and that you've got red carpet support from staff in order to provide scripts, and other training and interest, would be an opportunity for any of you to either self-nominate or suggest another party that you might want to stick those duties to.
this would be a good time and appropriate time to go ahead and do nominations or self-nominations. Anyone?
I self-nominate myself.
Okay, we have one self-nomination, and that is from committee member Gaurav Dutta.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other
I requested for self-nomination in last June meeting.
Can you
after the meeting?
move it? Yeah,
I requested for self-nomination in the first meeting, immediately after the meeting.
so would you like to nominate again for yourself for consideration of chair?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Thank
so we have a second self-nomination for the chair, Anurag Dixie.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So, do we have any other nominations or self-nominations? I see none. We will now move towards the voting of the chair. As our city attorney mentioned, we'll be doing a roll call vote. And so with that, we'll begin with the roll.
Can I pause just for 1 minute? Good comment that we should add for clarity. The tenure for a chair typically is just 1 year. So this is not a death sentence of responsibility for you. If you're interested, it would, the next year, there would be an opportunity. You don't have to change, chairs, but there would be an opportunity, to change chairs so that it can rotate, throughout the group. So thank you for that point, Michael, to add. And so when we talk about the roll call vote now, we're going to have a roll call vote for each person that's self-nominated, right? So we'll take them, probably in the order that they were nominated. So you are now, Mark, you designate the person who is now currently under consideration first.
Thank you. So the first person that was nominated is Gaurav Dutta. So we'll do the roll call for his desire to become chairperson.
And you can vote for yourself as well. You can self-nominate and vote for yourself. There's no need to recuse.
Okay. Duta,
I nominate myself.
so you're voting yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Tickler,
I'll vote yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Amerlo,
Yes.
and Bragimov,
Yes.
and Dixit.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we have a unanimous vote for the first nominee, Gaurav Dutta. So I believe we can accept that as the chairman, or do we still have to, all have to
We have a
defer? We
motion
still
on the
need to go.
floor, so
Okay,
if Dixit wishes to remove himself, which basically, then we won't vote. Otherwise, we need to take the vote. So it's on you, Dixit. Would you like to remove yourself, or would you like to call for a vote on your motion?
I can try next year.
Okay,
okay, so you
Noted.
have removed yourself from consideration.
so it's unanimous then.
Just a note here, you're probably about to make the same point I was.
We
We, of course, now have a process for nominating a vice chair. It's up to you about how you want to proceed with that. But a typical alternative when there's 2 people interested would be for committee member Dixit to maybe tender himself for consideration as the vice chair.
Yes, thank you.
And if anybody else, of course, is interested in serving as vice chair, that does not preclude others from self-nominating, for the vice chair position.
Okay, looking at the order of business, I think this is the time we announce the chair and seat them.
You can do that now, or after
I think-
you elect your vice chair would be better. So we have both. So we need to move forward with nominations and voting for the vice chair at this point.
Okay, so we'll be accepting nominations for the vice chair position. Anyone nominating themselves or someone else on this committee to be vice chair?
Yes,
Yes, you're nominating yourself for vice chair.
yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we have a nomination for Anru Dixit. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and call for the roll, or is there any other nominations? I see none. I think we're ready to call on the position for vice chair.
Duta,
Yes.
Tickler,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Pomerlo,
Yes.
Imbragamauf,
Yes,
and Dixit.
Yes.
That passes with unanimous vote.
Thank you and congratulations to both of you. This time we'll go ahead and seat the two. We'll be providing the chairperson a script. That is the review and confirmation of the
So congratulations, you're starting now. Yeah. And of course, we're all here to support you in this first, meeting with much more support, and training for the next, go around when the next meeting comes up.
Number 3. Yeah.
Thank you. So agenda item 3 is review and confirmation of the proposed project alignment with the voter approved expenditure plan for measure 1. Do you have a presentation?
Yes, we do have a presentation for the committee on this item.
And to the committee members, if you have any questions for the staff.
Sorry, let me pause you there. We're going to do the presentation and then
Sure.
we'll follow up with questions. Thank you.
All righty. So this evening we'll be presenting the Compliance Oversight Committee a review of and confirmation for the proposed projects for our phase 1 and alignment with the voter approved expenditure plan for Measure I. Next slide, please. Oh, that's right. There it is. Yep. To provide a little bit of context and background, on June 6th, 2025, the Bond Compliance Oversight Committee for Measure I, the Public Facilities and Infrastructure Bond Measure, convened its inaugural public meeting. During this meeting, committee members were provided training on their authority, role, and governing rules. City attorney provided training on the Brown Act, the bylaws, and the conflict of interest and ethics. Outside bond legal counsel Jones Hall provided training on Bonds 101, providing a summary covering the bond issuance process, including the roles and responsibilities and compliance. And just to kind of talk about some of the items that were discussed at that time, the committee responsibilities under Measure I, Section 13, provided under ordinance number 2069, Section 13, transparency and accountability requirements. The committee is charged with ensuring that bond proceeds are expended only for the purposes described in the voter-approved measure. The committee's specific responsibilities include, 1, ensuring that public project implementation consistent with the expenditure plan, reviewing and reporting on an annual performance and financial audits, providing recommendations to City Council on any proposed amendments to the expenditure plan, and informing the public concerning expenditure of bond proceeds. The first formal action of the committee is to review the proposed first phase of projects to be financed with the Measure I bonds and confirm the conformity with voter-approved expenditure plan. While this action is to confirm in the proposed project list is in alignment with the expenditure plan, we will take any feedback or comments that the committee may have to the City Council. Since capital projects delivery programs, since the passage of Measure I, city staff have been working with internal stakeholders to support efforts to advance existing and future program projects and activities. City staff have developed the proposed project list with a description of each project drawn directly from the voter-approved expenditure plan. Projects have been prioritized to balance readiness, community benefit, and resource availability, and the anticipated time frame of completion. Project prioritization factors include the factors are considered in the development and timing of the initial phase and the sequencing of projects within each project phase time period include A, the need to balance available staff and contractor resources. B, the length of the planning, design, and construction phases of each project. C, disruption to the public as city services and facilities. D, legal requirements for the expenditure of infrastructure bond proceeds. E, the timing and availability of alternate and supplemental funding sources. F, local, regional, state, and federal permitting requirements. And finally, G, the need to coordinate with other outside agencies. So how did we utilize the criteria? This is some of the criteria used for prioritized projects for phase one. To ensure a structured and efficient approach, staff established project priorities and the order of construction by categorizing projects into 3 types. Type 1 projects are projects that are designed ready projects and can transition to the construction phase and/or projects that will integrate with other existing programs. Type 2 projects, projects that still need conceptual design and specifications. And then there's type 3 projects, Those are projects that require further definition, planning, and feasibility. On this slide here, we've provided a comparison of the expenditure, the original expenditure plan that was approved by City Council and the voters with the proposed project list. We've categorized them identically so that you can see on the expenditure plan, the original budgeted amount and the amount that we're proposing on our proposed project list for this first order or this first purchase of projects that we go out with our bond sales. We'll use those proceeds to finance the initial projects that are listed there and costs. So under streets and transportation, the expenditure plan calls for an overall expenditure of $41,170,000. For this phase one proposed project list, we're asking for a total of $27,370,000. Fire stations and emergency response expenditure plan amount budgeted at $142,235,450. And for the proposed project list, $12,285,450. Police facilities has an expenditure plan amount of $41,170,000. Under the proposed project list, we're asking for $805,000 initially. Parks, libraries, senior center, and the aquatics is budgeted under the expenditure plan for $115,258,750. And for this phase, we're asking for a total of $38,438,750. Storm drain system improvements, budgeted expenditure plan of $46 million. Our proposed project list is asking for an initial amount of $16,585,300. And for historic buildings and beautification, it was budgeted at $9,200,000 under the expenditure plan. And for this phase, we're asking for $1,150,000. The overall expenditure plan was budgeted at be 399. Was budgeted at 397,851,700, and then another $2 million anticipated for the bond issuance and closing costs that are related to issuing the bonds for a total cost of $399,851,700. Under the proposed project list, our total project cost that we're asking for reaches $96,634,500. Again, we're transferring over the bond sale closing cost of $2 million into this for a total of $98,634,500. Note the initial proposed project list represents approximately 25% of the total Measure I funds. Looking ahead, project funding timeline and phasing. For phase one funding, the initial for 2026, the initial bond sale, tranche one, is going to be totaling about approximately $100 million. And it's anticipated to be sold in the first quarter of 2026. The second phase funding is anticipated for 2028. The second bond sale tranche two is planned for 2028 and is expected to be significantly larger than Tranche 1. These funds will support several major projects advancing from the study, feasibility, and analysis and design permitting phase that was occurring during Phase 1 to construction in Phase 2. And then future phases are projected in years 2030 plus. One or more additional bond sales will occur after 2030 to fund the remaining or follow-up projects. These later phases are anticipated to be smaller in scale than currently in Phase 1 and 2.
So Mark, before you go on to the next section, did we already distribute the expenditure plan documents so they can compare?
It is part of the packet.
Oh, no, did we have hard copies of the full expenditure we were going to hand out or no?
All the agenda items and the related attachments were printed and each one of them should have them in their
Okay.
packet.
They're in
Okay,
there.
they're in there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just for ease of reference, if you want, we gave you the original expenditure plan and then also a brief summary if you want to be able to compare them as we go through the next section. Thanks.
And just one other comment too, you've heard, I know you're all familiar with the word phase. You're probably not as familiar with the word tranche. We kind of use them interchangeably. Tranche is a financing term. When you have a large bond issue and you're planning on spending it in phases, each phase of bond issuance is called a tranche. So when you hear tranche, you're in effect hearing a finance term for phase. They're supposed to line up, right? A phase of projects and a tranche of financing, Phase 1 of the projects and Phase 1 of the first tranche. Those are in effect the same thing for your purposes.
Thank you. So if you go ahead and pull up your expenditure plan. This is the plan that was approved by the voters in the city council, and you'll see the numbers that I provided you on the previous slide totaling up 399,851,70. And what we'll be doing now is transitioning to the specific proposed project list tranche on the next slides here of what those projects entail within that proposed project list that we are proposing to confirm this evening. Starting on project areas for streets and transportation, we're going to initialize the street resurfacing and rehabilitation project. We're asking for approximately, well, exactly $16 million. This will, projects under this category will implement previously unfunded pavement rehabilitation work on arterial and collector streets based upon pavement condition surveys and analysis through the city's pavement management system. The pavement projects include placing surface seals, resurfacing, reconstruction, and miscellaneous related work. The second category is ADA improvements. In this area, we're asking for a funding level of $5 million. This project will implement portions of the city's American Disabilities Act self-evaluation and transition plan. The primary focus will be mitigating deficiencies shown in this report related to curb ramps, sidewalks, traffic signal push buttons to help mitigate barriers for accessibility in the right-of-way. Third item is Creek Trail rehabilitation. $2.5 million is what's being asked. This project will implement pavement preventive maintenance and rehabilitation for portions of the San Tomas Aquino Creek Trail. The work includes surface seals, resurfacing, reconstruction, and other miscellaneous work. And then finally, in this category, we have bicycle wayfinding. And we'll be asking for $300,000 in bond funds to, this project will implement new bicycle wayfinding in portions of the city-based recommendations from the city's Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, BPAC. For this grouping, this total allotment of Measure I funds total with contingencies and escalation administration costs, $27,370,000. On the next slide, we'll be moving into the fire stations and emergency response category. In this category, initially, we'll be asking for Fire Station 5 is designated for a replacement. Our initial ask in this first round of projects is $4 million. This following the completion of an assessment on the existing facility, and based upon those results, this project will be ready to advance to the next design phase. And upon completion of that design phase, the project will transition to construction and development. The second item in this category is our fire training tower renovation. We're asking for a total of $783,000. The funding expands the project scope to supplement an existing capital improvement program. The project will complete the renovation of the fire training tower. Third item on this section is the fire station security upgrades. We're asking for a total of $1,900,000. These funds will be used to install new perimeter fencing and gates at fire stations 1, 3, 4, and 8. These security upgrades will safeguard facilities, equipment, and personnel. And the last item in this category is for Fire Station 7 replacement. Again, we're asking for a similar amount as Fire Station 5, $4 million. This will provide the funds to study and provide a comprehensive evaluation of the Fire Station 7, including the current condition, facility needs, and future use requirements. Upon determination of future path forward, design phase and field work study will be implemented. Including the contingency, escalation, and administration costs, this total grouping is asking for a total funding of $12,285,450. I'd like to take a moment to just add here in this particular category, things are constantly changing in the city, and there's been a recent development that may down the road require us to amend this area. We're currently exploring the possibility of adding at fire station number 9 to the initial projects. There's the possibility of expanding that footprint out there. And so we're on the initial discussions of it. So we haven't programmed that into the plan at this time, but that could change down the road. And we certainly would come back to this committee and make you aware of that change. The next grouping is for police facilities. In this category, we'll be asking for the Real-Time Intelligence Center. We'll be asking dollars for a feasibility there of $150,000. This study will evaluate the feasibility of expanding the existing police headquarters to include a Real-Time Intelligence Center, RTIC. The RTIC would integrate emerging technologies, including drone support, to provide real-time situational awareness and enhance operational effectiveness for police staff. The next item is a police training facility, feasibility and assessment. We're asking for an initial funding amount of $250,000. The funding will support the identification and evaluation of potential sites for a new police training facility. The work will include site feasibility analysis, assessments, and preparation of conceptual design options to inform future planning and development. Third category is kind of integrated, but two separate line items in our expenditure plan, but the police department drone first responder infrastructure. Again, for initial $50,000 funding level, this project will fund a feasibility study, schematic design, and project phasing plan for adding dedicated space at the police headquarters to support the drone first responder program. And finally, in the category of police facilities, we're asking for $250,000 under the emergency operations infrastructure. These funds are allocated for the installation of new perimeter fencing and security gates at the emergency operations facility. Including the contingency, escalation, and administration, the total amount that we're asking for in the police facilities category is for $805,000. The next category that we'll be discussing is for parks, libraries, senior center, and aquatics facilities. And this is for the part one, first phase of the projects out there. This first one is for the community aquatic facility, International Sports Center, or Swim Center, excuse me, recreational renovation. And for phase one, this includes the preparation of schematic designs. Can't read it very well there, pretty small. And construction documents, thank you. And construction documents along with targeted facility improvements and construction. Rehabilitation efforts will focus on replacing the pool decking, recirculation pump plumbing, boilers, and perimeter gutter systems for all pools. The dive tower will be replaced to meet the latest building codes and aquatic competition regulations. In this category, we're asking for a total of $22,200,000. The second phase of the community aquatic facility, International Swim Center renovation replacement, is to provide funding for $2 million. And this will prepare schematic designs for an administrative building, repair the existing bleachers and roof, and make improvements to the accessory buildings near the bleacher area. The third item on this is Warburton Park Playground renovations. A total of $3 million is being requested. The project will deliver a comprehensive renovation of Warburton Park's playground facilities. Planned improvements include new playground structures, safety surfacing, landscaping, and accessibility upgrades to create a safe, inclusive, and engaging playing environment for children. Our fourth item is Henry Schmidt Park Playground renovations. At this site, we're asking for $4,325,000. This project will renovate and modernize the playground facilities at the park. Upgrades will feature new equipment, enhanced safety features, and improved accessibility to ensure the playground meets community needs. Fifth item is the Central Park Library restroom remodeling and access control redesign for a total of $250,000. This project consists of two components. The first is design services for a potential redesign and renovation of 5 public restrooms located on the first and second floors of the Central Park Library. The second component involves replacing the existing access control unit and reprogramming access corridors to improve the security and functionality. Slide. The next item is also at the Central Park Library. This involves the lighting control system replacement. We're asking for an additional $250,000 on this item. Funds will be used to replace the library's aging lighting control system, which has reached the end of its useful life and is no longer supported by the manufacturer. The other item at the Central Park Library and Mission Library's main entry auto system door replacements. We're asking for $200,000. This project will replace 3 automatic entry door systems that have reached the end of their service life. The scope includes 2 systems at the Central Park Library and 1 system at the Mission Branch Library. This will ensure continued accessibility and convenience for our patrons. Central Park Mission Northside Libraries Study and Designs, we're asking for $1.2 million. Funding will support anticipated design costs identified in the library facilities master plan. The scope includes studies and design work for improvements across Central Park, Mission, and Northside libraries to guide future renovations and upgrades. With contingency, escalation, and administration costs, the total amount for this category of parks, library, senior center, and aquatics facilities, we're asking for a funding level of $38,438,750. The next category that we have is under the project areas of storm drain system improvements. Storm drain system improvements, we're asking for $5 million in this round. This project will implement previously unfunded work recommended in the city storm drain master plan to eliminate potential flooding in areas of the city. The initial focus will be on constructing storm drain pipes, manholes, inlets, and other miscellaneous work along Harrison Street, east of San Tomas Aquino Creek. The next item in this category is green stormwater infrastructure design and construction. We're asking for $6,645,000. Municipal regional stormwater permit issued by the state requires the city to initiate the installation of green stormwater infrastructure that will treat 5 acres of stormwater runoff by June 30th of 2027. This project will implement GSI treatment in locations such as Hope Drive and Lincoln Street from El Camino Real to Warburton Avenue. The third item in this category is Bowers Avenue Underpass storm drain pump system rehabilitation. We're asking for $2,030,000. This project funds reconstruction of the Bowers Avenue Underpass Storm Pump Station. The work includes items such as pumps, control panels, fencing, security features, and other miscellaneous upgrades. Fourth item is storm drain pump system motor and control replacement for a total of $347,000. This funding will help support the annual maintenance related to the as-needed repair and replacement of motors and controls at various pump stations, city pump stations. Fifth item is storm drain pump station outfall reconstruction program in the amount of $250,000. This funding will help support the annual maintenance and reconstruction related to the as-needed repair and replacement at various storm drain outfall locations. And the final item in this category, storm drain renovations, request for $150,000. This funding will help support the annual maintenance and reconstruction related to the as-needed repair, replacement of storm drain facilities. Under including contingency, escalation, and administration costs, a total amount of $16,585,300 is being requested. And the final category is for historic buildings, beautification, and energy efficiency. We have one project identified there, and that's for our Triton Museum improvements. We're asking for $1 million. This funding will be used to help support the Triton Museum roof replacement project, which has previously been unfunded in city budgets. In this category, with contingency escalation and administration costs, we're asking for a total of $1,150,000. The next slide kind of tabulates all the costs rolled up for the project costs of tranche 1 that we're asking for in this project phase 1 for a total project cost, $96,634,500. And then with the addition of the bond closing issuance closing costs, an additional $2 million for a final total of $98,634,500. With that, we are asking the committee is tasked for a recommendation, is tasked with confirming that these projects are in fact consistent with voter-approved expenditure plan. The committee's role is to review the proposed allocations, ensure they align with Measure I's purposes, and provide confirmation to the City Council. The Bond Compliance Oversight Committee take the following action. Determine that the phase 1 proposed project list is consistent with voter-approved expenditure plan for Measure I. So the next steps are the next plan committee meeting proposed to be held in spring of 2026. Proposed agenda items for that meeting include review expenditure report of approved project list phase 1. The other item is update on current projects and future phasing. And the third one is a discussion on the preparation of the annual report. A report to include the following: statement indicating whether the city is in compliance with the spending requirements of Measure I. And the second item, a summary of the committee's proceedings and activities for the preceding year. This concludes our presentation for the Bond Compliance Oversight Review and Confirmation of the proposed projects for phase 1 and alignment with voter-approved expenditure plan for Measure I. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to ask, sorry.
I'm sorry. I need to acknowledge that committee member Matthew Klopp arrived and is now present for this item. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask committee members if you have any questions.
I have a question about the bond issuance costs. So on the general obligation bond expenditure plan, there's a $2 million bond issuance. Oh, sorry. So I have a question about the bond issuance costs so on the general obligation bond expenditure plan, there's a budget of $2 million for bond issuance costs, as we know. And then on phase one, the bond issuance cost is expected to also be $2 million. So, but that's only phase one. So so for phase two, are we expecting, which is even going to be a greater expenditure, they're going to be surpassing the budget for the whole plan.
So good question. We put that as an earmark because those bond sales haven't occurred yet. And so we don't have a true cost of what those are. But any dollars that are not utilized roll back into the pot. So that would be rolled up at the end of the year once we finalize the actual transaction and we have an actual known cost. It has a lot of variables to get that. It's whatever those costs are in terms of the percentages that are the interest rates that we're selling those bonds and all that. So those fees are derived from partially the amount of the bond issuance that we're selling, plus whatever other percentages that our consultants use to calculate their fees. So whatever is not used gets rolled back, but we did want to put a placeholder of $2 million to make sure we have enough to cover that cost, but we're not sure what that cost is because the issuance of those bonds are planned for 2026.
Any other questions?
Is project activity schedule and completion date within the scope of this meeting? Are we supposed to track it? Activity schedule for each project and the completion date?
Yeah, so part of the way that we worked with our stakeholder, our departments was really determining how we can start designing or going into construction within those completion date timelines. As you might recall from the training last week, we typically have to expend funds within 3 years, up to 5 years for certain types of projects, right? And so we will be coming back once we start expending those dollars so you can kind of see and track how those dollars are being spent over that time period. You're going to be getting our audits, our annual audit, as well as preparing an annual report for the city council. But that is what went into making that determination of the projects that we were going to propose going forward first.
Sure. Thanks for this slide. And I wish to highlight one thing that budget allocation ranking overall for police department is number 4, but for this meeting, allocation is ranked at number 6 for police. And considering the upcoming events in 2026, one is the international game events or elections, would it be reasonable to prioritize the budget allocation to police in the next meeting, like for drone or any surveillance or tracking purpose? If it is within our scope, I would request for the future meetings to prioritize the police activities. Otherwise, I approve and it's a great presentation. Thank you.
So if I understand correctly, you're asking why there's a minimal amount of allocation of dollars for the police department's planned work, right?
No, not a question necessarily per se. I do see the next meeting, I think, is in spring 2026. It might be too late for if police doesn't get priority for special events or something similar. So that is just my future request. But today, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to help clarify there. It's not that we're not prioritizing police. It's that the projects that they're proposing require a lot more work and more feasibility study and design. We're just not there yet to be able to put that full amount for construction. So until we can start studying it and designing it, then, in the next tranche, we'd be able to start construction if we're ready to move forward. And so that's really why you don't see that full amount, because they're not construction ready yet. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions from the committee members?
Not really a question, but just a comment about the previous bond compliance meeting. The date is sometimes being referred to as June 5th in this documentation, and sometimes it's referenced as June 4th, and the correct date was June 4th. But on this document, it's saying that it was on June 5th. So
And it is a typo.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. We need to correct that.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, if no committee members, any questions, I'll open the public hearing and ask the staff if any members of the public wish to speak online or in person.
Hello, alternate member Heesung. Some of the categories that are outlined in the plan don't necessarily line up with what's on the current phase 1 project. So how do we reconcile those? I think one of the examples is the police. So like real-time intelligence, where would we, I guess, match that up? Then for parks area, there's several, like for a central park.
Chair, is it okay if I answer the public's question or do you want me to? Because we don't have to necessarily answer questions from the public, but if you
Yeah, please.
want, okay. So the police one is actually listed as the police department facility and real-time crime center infrastructure. That's where that one fits in, that police one so that $5 million that fits within that project. And then the Central Park is actually the library. And so the library has a very generally listed allocation. I think it's $9 million for library facilities. So Central Park Library are those allocations there. So if you look on the expenditure plan, it's written very broadly. So anything we related to the library, correct? Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, so the contingency factor is that for we found something that needs to be fixed before we finish this phase, and then a follow-up to Member Rodriguez's question, the bond closure, is that a one and done for phase 1 through 4, or will there be another contingency on 2, 3, and 4? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Very good. I'll take the bond issuance cost question. The $2 million that were budgeted in the expenditure plan that was approved by the voters, it was developed based on consultations with financial advisors who have a general sense, right? Even though, as Mark pointed out, you don't know, until you actually do the actual issuance, what the costs are going to be. But it was based on their general understanding of what the likely costs would be for the entire $400 million issuance. The $2 million that's budgeted here is really just to make sure that no matter what, we have enough money, to cover what the costs are for the phase 1. The expectation is that the cost will be substantially less than the $2 million, and that there will be, we hope, if the initial estimate is a good, is a sound one, that after we offset the costs from phase 1, there'll be a sufficient amount left to cover the costs for subsequent phases. If we determine that that's not adequate, there may need to be adjustments to that amount. And there's actually a provision built into here to give staff some administrative flexibility to adjust budgeted amounts for that in the event that the costs go over. So the question's a good one. The $2 million, I think, was just a safety measure to make sure no matter what, we had a sufficient amount. It wouldn't compromise or offset against any subsequent phases. That number will be adjusted based on actual costs. And then the report that comes back, to you about how the monies were spent will communicate to you how much was spent on closing costs for the first phase. So you'll be able to track that yourselves. And it will be, an adjusted process as we go through that.
In terms of your question about the contingency escalation, administration costs. So in the original expenditure plan, each of these categories for the full amount was programmed at about a 15% cost for each of the different areas. And so we took that same 15% calculation of the amount of project construction phasing that we're asking for in phase one. We applied that 15%. So it's a percentage of that amount, which is consistent with that of the overall programmed amount in the expenditure plan. Does that kind of make sense? It does for that amount of dollars, but on phase two, we would anticipate another line item again for 15% of that amount that we'll be asking for each project area. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to again ask the staff to see if there are any other members of the public who wish to speak.
I do have one hand raised online. Anthony Pasquale, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you'll unmute yourself on your end. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Pasquale, President of Santa Clara Firefighters, Local 1171. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. And thank you for all the work. A tremendous amount of work has gone into this. Our members have been a part of trying to get the bond passed. Last year, we were knocking on doors. We did a lot of work trying to get the 400 million over to the city to be able to do these projects, largely due to the lapsing in infrastructure in the fire department with some fire stations, in particular Station 5, which was set to be rebuilt almost 10 years ago. And so, Mike, I don't know if it's more of a question or more advocating. Again, thank you for the work. It's just a little confusing because I know that there was some assessments done where the city spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to assess that fire station should get replaced, and a design was done. And the ask, I guess, would be if we can at least put one of the fire stations in the first phase, primarily due because we cannot obviously rebuild all the fire stations at the same time to provide adequate city coverage. And by doing one a little bit earlier than the others, we kind of open ourselves up to giving us more options. And so the station really needs it. And I understand that your public works department and everyone's been working really hard to kind of analyze how it's getting done. I guess it's just kind of confusing because we've known that this project has been due for quite some time and there has been some work done to it. So I'm just kind of curious as to why it's not further along in the phasing.
Sorry, I think we have our public works director, so Craig will be able to respond.
Yeah. Hi, Anthony. Thanks for the question. And, beyond this meeting, I'm more than happy to get together with you and kind of discuss the public works process in terms of, what it takes to get the projects going through design and into construction. In regards to your specific question, so yes, there was, I know about 8+ years ago, there was an initial study done on Fire Station 5. I remember discussing it with some of the staff members way back then. And so really, when you look at the timeframes associated with it, and we definitely want to move and get projects done as quickly as possible. There's a lot of different phases to get the projects going. In particular, the first is hiring consultants. And so we have to go through a formal process to not only prepare a scope of work and an RFP to hire a consultant, but go through an advertising process, get all the proposals together from the consultants, review all those, rank all those, sometimes allow for interview process, which takes a period of time, as well as preparing formal reports up to the council to get those consultant contracts approved. So when you look at the timeframes of doing that, you know, you're in the 4 to 6 month window just to get a consultant on board. With this particular project, I think what is critical is one of the first steps is working with the fire department as well as that consultant to take that study that was done on way back, 8 or so years ago, and to validate that and make sure that all of the items that fire needs and wants out of this fire station are represented and nothing has changed. And really to kind of lock down that concept, make sure everybody's in agreement on that before we move on with the design process. And the design process itself takes a period of time, not only to design it, but also there's certain periods, 30, 60, 90%, where we will be allowed, 3, plus or minus weeks to review those documents, get all those back to the consultant, and then get responses back. So when you start looking at what those design timeframes are, they're easily a year. And then you go through a process to bid out the project. So once you get all your permitting done and everything, you go and bid the projects out. You've got to get all your permits. You've got to do all your advertisement, which is a minimum 3 weeks, sometimes more for larger projects. You get all your low bids in. You got to go through an evaluation process, make sure everything's in order, identify your low bidder, get back on the council agenda and get that approved. So really, in short, it does take time. I am more than willing to get together with you and kind of get you some more specifics on what those average timeframes are for projects. But really what it looks at is if we start that process in this 2 years, we'd be at, close to awarding a project. And then that next tranche would capture all that money to build it. So again, please reach out to me, Craig Mobeck, Director of Public Works, if you want to get into more detail with it. I am available.
I have no other speakers online.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to ask the presenting staff to see if they have any additional comments.
No comments.
So with that, I'd like to close the public hearing. Moving forward, I'd like to bring back the discussions around the funds and et cetera back to the committee to see if they have any comments or any questions before I go ahead with the motion.
Yes, hi. I'm sorry I was late to the meeting. I may have missed part of the previous discussion. I do have a question about the fire department expenditure. Looks like there's an expenditure of 1.9 million for security and fencing. And it looks like it's proposed in this first tranche of budgeting. If the fire department is planning to build new fire facilities, how does that play in with the new facilities coming in? Is it going to be built and then kind of redone at a later date with the fire department being rebuilt?
I can take that question. The fire stations that are identified for the security fencing and all that are not fire stations slated for replacement or renovation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'd like to invite a motion.
Does anyone want to make a motion to approve staff recommendation? Can we put the staff recommendation up just so that they can see it?
Yeah, one slide before that.
You could also read the staff recommendation if that's helpful. So staff recommendation is determine that the phase one project, proposed project list is consistent with the voter approved expenditure plan for Measure I. And it's on slide 19, if anybody wants to read that. Do we have a motion?
Approve.
Let me see. Any motions?
So I move to approve that the phase one proposed project list is consistent with the voter approved expenditure plan.
And we'll need a second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. I'd like to do a roll call vote.
Yuta,
Approve.
yes. Tickler,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Pomerlo,
Yes.
Ibragimov,
Yes.
Dixit,
Yes.
and Clark.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you, committee.
Concludes our meeting.
No, I think, well, right now on the agenda, I think we have staff reports. And I don't think we have anything to report. Mark, do you have anything to report? Public Works? No?
No.
And then, yeah, and yeah, we'll just refresh on the next step slide. We're expecting to meet back in the spring. We're hoping to have sold the tranche we're hoping for January, but it could be February when we actually sell those bond proceeds. But we'll give you an update on where the projects are and where those funds, and how those funds are being spent. And then we'll also have a discussion on the annual report. We're required to file an annual report after the first fiscal year. So our fiscal year ends in June. So we'll talk about in spring, we'll talk about how we're going to prepare that annual report, and we'll probably convene sometime in July or August to talk about developing that report for the city council. And so I think that's about it for staff reports. And I think if any of the committee members have any reports that they'd like to make, please feel free.
Yeah, reports are really at this point comments.
Yeah.
I have.
I do have a
Questions.
So in the bylaws, basically says that committee members have two authorized activities. And the second of those is to inspect facilities and grounds for which bond proceeds have been or will be expended in accordance with any established by the city manager. I would certainly like to visit some sites that, especially I would like to visit the sites in District 2. I guess I can work my way through and figure out, like, I know that the underpass work will be in my area, a few other things, but I'm just wondering in general how the committee members would be able to figure out when is an appropriate time to visit, because also, even if I know where these places might be, that doesn't mean I know. I mean, it's pointless to just show up there and say, like, they're not ready for you, or if they're not breaking ground on anything doing.
Yeah.
I would say that, these are construction sites in many cases, right? So the public wouldn't be allowed to go into those areas. But I think once those projects are completed, That's certainly something we can discuss about getting together and maybe doing a site tour or site visit at some of these. But we have to be careful about the timing of when we go out to these projects, right? We just can't walk onto a construction site and say, I'm, with the committee and I'd want to see the work that's being done.
But I will say, what might be helpful is for us to be able to identify to the projects that are in your various districts so that you're familiar with them. And even if maybe perhaps even before we start construction, if there is a desire to inspect any of those facilities, that we can coordinate something. And so maybe we'll send a separate communication outside of the meeting to talk about potential tours of sites if that is of interest of the committee. Yep.
And and you'd be able to do that broken down by district, right? With the people with the individual district interests. So it sounds like you may be able to make arrangements to, even before projects are constructed, just to get a feel for what's being proposed where.
I mean, it would be useful. I know it's not part of this project, but there's a project taking place right near me right now at Brocker Elementary where they're doing cleanup. So it was very helpful to find out before that started happening, like what was happening, what measures they were taking. And then I don't foresee, I don't think the committee members necessarily have to follow the entire project through, but just in general to know what's going on so that they can see intelligently what's being done.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can coordinate. I think the project that you're referencing is a school district project as well. Yeah. Mhm. All right, so seeing other committee comments, I think we can make a motion to adjourn the meeting. So do we need a motion?
No, the chair just needs to adjourn and then state the time of adjournment, and that's it.
So you can, you could just say the meeting's adjourned.
Just say meeting is
Okay,
adjourned at such
meeting
and
is
such
adjourned, guys,
time.
for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all the committee members and vice chair as well. Thank you for coming out tonight.